Hello, everyone. I'm Midnight Dave here from the Midnite Romero Society, part of Hallo'Boogie. We are doing a Halloween Cribs, and joining us today is the Coolidge Corner's own Mark Anastasio. Hello, sir. How are you today?
Hi, Dave. It's nice to see you, man. How are you?
I'm good, optimistic, bringing in the season's greetings and the
Yeah,
cheer, of course. Pumpkin spice and everything nice, as they say. um, So with Halloween Cribs, we like to interview people with substantial, Halloween or horror-related collections. And you, my friend, are someone a big fan of genre films. Um,
yeah.
and so I'll start off by saying, what got you into collecting, such, paraphernalia? Um, I imagine it was your love of horror movies, but what got you started? Was it like one particular piece, or did someone inspire you?
Oh, I mean, ever since I was little, I have been a collector. It started with comic books, and I still collect comics. But when I started getting into film seriously and specifically genre film, uh, I thought that the posters were so gorgeous. Like, I would be collecting reprints of classic horror posters, and then that's probably where it began. My bedroom walls were always covered in horror stuff, and then now that's moved on to collecting um, original materials, theatrical materials for films. So um, it's uh, it's still it's still an obsession, and now it's just gotten a lot more expensive. Um, so I like collecting also prints, horror prints. I like buying um, horror art, original artwork from a lot of friends of mine in the area. I have on my walls, and yeah, specifically, I'm sitting in our living room now, where most of the movie watching is done. So this room has quite a few pieces on the walls. Um, uh, yeah, do I start, when should I start showing you this stuff?
Yeah, I see a Santa Sangre poster right
Yeah, the
behind you.
Santa Sangre one is pretty cool. That was one that Mondo put out. I think I do have a couple Mondo posters on the wall, and uh, my newest piece is the one I was gonna start by showing you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Should I just get up and walk this thing around?
Whatever's most comfortable.
um, so the newest one is this Mothra insert poster. So
Hmm,
these I like to collect. It's got some glare on it. Is that what's going on? There we go.
nice.
Um, so these I like to collect because of their size. So these would be the posters for the film that would be folded up and stuffed inside like a press packet for the movie.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit smaller than a theatrical one sheet. So it's a lot easier to frame a lot of them and keep them in a tiny apartment. So this one is the most recent that I've had framed. Um, I grew up absolutely loving uh, Godzilla, and my brothers and I as kids probably wore out every Godzilla tape from the local mom and pop video store, which was, for us, it was Video Express, uh, back in Connecticut. It's long gone, as all of those places are, sadly. Like, this is what we're looking at. We got lots of stuff. I do collect like little photos from horror movies, that are, sometimes, actually, these are signed by folks that I've either worked with at the theater or met at conventions. I do miss doing cons to promote shows. Like, that's the thing I'm missing most this month, is the lack of rock and shock. Um,
Yeah, I feel you on that one.
yeah, it's just lots of movie stuff in here.
Nice. Now, is there like one particular type of genre or film series that you collect the most, or
Yeah, it's all horror stuff.
okay?
I mean, I also have like in tubes, probably a ton of modern genre posters too. Like, I have no idea where they would have come from though. It has nothing to do with my employment at the Coolidge Corner Theater. It's just, you come across this stuff sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so I also know you're a big collector of masks.
Yeah, yeah. That's another thing I've gotten into recently is collecting um, collecting rubber monster masks, and specifically, there's a lot of great artists out there that sort of produce these masks on their own. And my favorite artist currently is a place called the Devil's Workshop. A mask maker named Pete Infelice uh, makes some great masks, and I have a collection of his stuff like permanently on display in the living room. These behind me here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and then there's like it's with the backdrop of an original Mr. Rouge painting who does all the artwork for Coolidge After Midnight posters. Like, we've worked with Mark for almost 20 years now. You can see his Exorcist poster there. But this is a particularly neat one. This is a mask not only just based off of Boris Karloff in The Ghoul, but it's specifically, you can see that famous Monsters of Filmland magazine in the background. Like, the coloring is based on that original artwork. So Boris here is a highlight for sure.
Yeah. Is that a Basil Gogos?
I think it is. Yeah, let's see. It definitely is. I had to look for the signature. Was that just my arm in the frame? Great, cool. Great, I'm doing awesome. And then this is Devil's Workshop's recreation of the Bayshore Zombie, which was a monster mask from the 50s that a lot of people feel is, the first consumer product that was ever zombie anything. So that's his version of it. I've also got a recreation of what the original might have looked like in the other room that I can show you. And we got a little shrunken head. And then this is another mask based off of, I think it's from a Creepy magazine cover, which is one of my favorite magazines to collect. When I travel, as for good luck, I always have a copy of Creepy magazine #7 on me, which features that Frank Frazetta Dracula versus Wolfman cover.
Ooh, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, if there was one piece of artwork that is the reason for why I am this way, it's probably that Frazetta painting. As a kid, I used to just stare at an image of it in some book for hours on end, and it, got me into creepy horror movies. But there's some more masks over here. Here, walk with me.
My pleasure.
So over here we've got some different sort of stuff. More insert. There's an original insert poster for the Amityville Horror. Our front door is right there. So I thought that it was cool that the first thing you see when you walk in is, "For God's sake, get out." And I've got this old Frankenstein mask, which was, I think that this just was released by, this is just a rubber Universal Studios Frankenstein mask. It's actually pretty tattered and falling apart, but I've had it for a good while, and it just looks kind of neat. I'm into Boris Karloff, in case you couldn't tell. And then there's this Karloff mummy here. This was a couple years ago. Target, you know how Target always does those awesome Halloween collections for their decorations? a couple years ago, their whole thing was Monsterville, and it was sponsored by Universal Studios. And I picked this up, and it actually moves. Let's.
Never saw a mummy like that.
Oh.
Neither, I imagine, has anyone else. Looks as though he died in some sensationally unpleasant manner. The contorted muscles show that he struggled in the bandages. Buried alive.
Yeah. So my daughter's scared of that one when it moves. But. And then we've got this great Bela Lugosi Dracula blow mold. I had actually never turned it on before, but I turned it on for the purposes of this discussion. A buddy of mine named,
that's the reason.
a friend of mine named John actually came across a guy who had like a tractor trailer truck full of these things on his property, and so they're kind of rare, but the fact that locally like a whole truckload of them was found, I feel like most horror collectors in the Boston area now have one of these guys in their collection, which is kind of cool. Yeah, it's pretty neat. But and then let's see what else. Oh, here's another one of the Devil's Workshop masks. This is just like a creepy vampire in a hood, and he's on like a vampire sort of shelf. His little Vampirella statue, and yeah, I don't know. It's just tell me when to stop. This is pretty neat. I like this one a lot. I do like to collect. I do like to collect posters that promote a gimmick, and so William Castle being the king of gimmicks. This is probably his most famous film, The Tingler, with Vincent Price, where, for this film, they would rig buzzers to all the seats and scare members of the audience. So I really like this lobby card because it's the visual representation of what the audience would be going through during the film. I actually got to attend a screening of it at the Brattle last year, where they had The Tingler devices rigged to the seats, and I had the pleasure of operating the Tingler button at the appropriate time, and it was something I'll never forget.
What a job, and something to include on your resume, right?
Yeah, I have tingled. Like, let's see. This is kind of neat. I don't know if I can get close enough, but that's just a page from an old American International like film buyer book. Like, this is how movies would be advertised to theaters. And wow. So I just really dug it that it says more gore than ever before means more box office too. So like, this is how you would shop for your midnight movies, back in the 60s, maybe 70s for these. And then as we continue down this wall, another one that I really dug to, so that people see it right when they first come in, is this original Madhouse one sheet, which also says, if stark terror were ecstasy, living here would be sheer bliss. So I like that you get hit with this right when you come in. And then there's some more Vincent Price. I guess I'm into Vincent Price. Who isn't, right? I talked about that Bayshore Zombie, so that would be, now I can't see what I'm showing you. So I think you can see that would be like what that original mask might have looked like. That's a neat reproduction of it. And then we've got, of course, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, who it's probably really dusty up there. So I'm going to bring this back down. So those guys live there all year round. That's not just a Halloween display. That is an all the time display. Trying to think of what else lives here throughout the year. Oh, we've got these little Simpsons Treehouse of Horror guys.
Nice.
Yeah, these guys stay here all the time. I don't know. I guess it's not. I always feel like it's kind of a spooky house, because when people come over to visit, you kind of become more aware when they either scream or take a few steps back, or God forbid, like my parents come to visit, because then they can't even look you in the eyes. They're just like looking at those guys over there and being like, how does I have a 2-year-old, so they're like, they think of it as some form of child abuse, but my, my daughter actually really enjoys the stuff. And when she was real little, she would ask to like boop all the masks on the nose before she went to bed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fear, right? Just sock him on the nose. Boogeyman to go to bed. Awesome. Well, that was great, Mark.
Yeah, it's a tiny little tour.
Yeah.
There's other stuff, but these are the only 2 rooms I cleaned.
Well, there's a lot of great stuff in there. And you said you were a fan of Karloff, and he's
Yeah.
like one of the great monster act. But I noticed like on the one sheet you had Curse of the Mummy's Tomb, which was a Hammer flick, and I'm always curious to see what people prefer. If they prefer like the Hammer renditions of the Universal monsters, or if they were very starch defenders of the original Boris Karloff, Bela
No,
Lugosi.
I honestly, I really love both. I mean, the original Universal monsters were, so I guess one of the big factors for me becoming a horror fan were, there was a series of books that almost every public school library held when we were kids. It's the Crestwood Monster series. It's a series of, you should look these up if people haven't heard of them, the Crestwood Monster series. They were like orange bound books, hardcover books that each focus on a different movie monster. So there was a book, and they were just titled like Dracula or The Wolf Man. And they covered all the different types of films that would feature those monsters, and everything from the movie makeup to interviews with the actors portraying them. And I would lose countless hours to, skipping middle school and sitting in the library. I would skip class to like go read books in the library. That's the type of rebellious kid I was. But even in elementary school, I remember my elementary school had these, but they were such wonderful books. So I always saw pictures of Karloff as the mummy, in the same pages, next to Christopher Lee in the Hammer mummy films. So I had always been equally fascinated by both. But if you forced me to choose, I'd go with the OGs over the Hammer stuff. But I do love watching Hammer stuff this time of year. I mean, as great as, it's great to watch Universal monster movies, but like sometimes you want to see what these creatures look like in color. So throw on the Hammer.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, honestly, this is probably like Christopher Lee's Dracula that's neck and neck with Bela for me. And I know that's an odd take, but I don't know. Christopher Lee's awesome Dracula.
No, absolutely. I feel that there was a lot more, at least in speaking of Dracula, not to make this all about Hammer films, but I do feel that Christopher Lee had a little bit more interesting supporting characters around him, whereas Bela stole the whole show every time he was on screen.
Yeah, that's true. And well, actually, now that we're talking about it, so I do have. Let me see if I can get to it without. Well, yeah, we're gonna sneak into my guest room quickly, which is not so tidy. Oh, but does feature more gimmicks. There's another insert poster for a double feature of witchcraft and the horror of it all. And that film has the gimmick of only the witch deflector can save you from the eerie web of the unknown. And I did track down a couple witch deflectors, which are really cheap. but pretty neat.
That's awesome.
So what was I was coming in here for the hammer, right? So, oh wow, almost dropped a step stool. Sorry, everybody's got like a room in their house that's just full of stuff, right? That's where
Oh, I do. So.
So there's a hammer poster. That's a double bill for the Scars of Dracula and the Horror of Frankenstein. I had that up for a while and only moved it recently and just haven't found another place to put it yet. But sometimes I like displaying folded posters. I really like anything that looks like it's been in a movie theater. So yeah, I guess if I'm in here, we got Psycho 2.
Nice.
Yeah, I framed that poster of Psycho 2 because at the time it was the worst performing film I had ever programmed at midnight.
What?
Yeah, I wanted to commemorate it so I would never forget that people will not come out to watch Psycho 2 in a theater. But I don't know, that was probably 10 years ago, so I'm ready to do it again because I actually think Psycho 2 is a really good movie.
It is. It's very underrated. And,
yeah.
I think it's gotten a bit of a resurgence lately. So you might be on the cusp of something.
I'll find a reason to do it that'll draw a crowd. So,
Yeah.
I did bring it back actually after I had that screening where like 3 people showed up. I played it again in a summer series that I did called The Terrible Twos, and I played like ill-advised sequels of horror films that I thought that people think of as like, how could you do this, but were actually pretty worthwhile. And it did perform a little bit better. There's maybe 20 people there for that show. Anyway.
Gotta lump them together.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Mark. This is.
Yeah, I hope it's been entertaining. You guys should all just come over. It'd be a lot easier. Once there's a cure for this thing, everybody should just come over and you can listen to all this again.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it like actual crib style with like a GoPro or something.
Yeah. super tight, like fast edits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I get to say more exciting, like instead of, I could just go into the guest room and it's like, and this is the room where we keep all our crap.
This is where the witch magic happens.
Yeah. Right. Where the Halloween magic happens.
Halloween magic, exactly. Well, thank you again. And you have some things coming up. You have that lecture with.
I do. Yeah. I'm doing a talk on an American Werewolf in London for the Coolidge on October 15th, which is a virtual seminar, is what we call them. And so you can register anytime between now and the 15th. You'll get to watch a video of me that you'll receive prior to the seminar, talking about, I'm going to specifically be talking about werewolf makeups in horror history and why American Werewolf in London sort of blew the lid off of what we knew and what we thought about werewolf transformations. Not exactly the most, that's not exactly the typical higher learning stuff that we do at our seminars, but I'm going to do my best to present you with the best information I can. I've got a ton of great old photos of different artists working on different werewolf movies over the years, and it should be a lot of fun. And we picked American Werewolf specifically because that film is also the headliner for our Halloween Horror Marathon this year, which unfortunately is sold out because we're doing it outdoors in the Rocky Woods under a full moon We're doing a 12-hour werewolf movie marathon, but I am looking at ways to engage with people at home virtually during the screening. So stay tuned for an update there. Hopefully we can find a way so you can join us from the safety of your homes on Halloween night.
That'd be cool. And your lecture sounds fantastic. I,
Thanks.
for one, bought a ticket, and
Oh, thanks, Dave.
yeah, to know that that's what it's going to be about just makes me even more excited.
Okay, cool.
Cool. So the last thing I'll leave us with would be, out of everything you showed us today, what is your most favorite item, and why would that be?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay. Well, I can do. I don't know about favorite. I can do significant.
Okay, significant works.
Yeah. So, and this is me. This is more me like touting my own stuff. But so up here, I've got some of our Halloween horror marathon posters, and so the one I hope that is centered there is it's the little guy with the jack-o'-lantern and his candy corn teeth.
Mhm.
That is from our horror marathon back in 2007, which is touting a double feature of The Monster Squad and Evil Dead 2. And that was my first work as a film programmer ever. And so that was close to 14 years ago, and I'm still doing it and still having a great time doing it. So that piece is probably that's the most significant to me and my horror business work.
What a lineup. That's awesome.
Yeah, and that wasn't even so. That's what it says on the poster, but that's not what the run of show was. The double feature was actually The Monster Squad and Halloween, and then Evil Dead just played later in the night. So that was even before we only promoted the first two movies. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Making me nostalgic.
Me too. Making me sad that we won't be in a theater watching this stuff this year, but hopefully we're back, and healthy and able to do it safely next year.
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least, we'll be watching it together. So,
Totally. Yeah.
yeah. But, all right, Mark, thank you for doing all this. Thank you for joining us and showing us around.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, our pleasure. And once again, for everyone at home, this is part of Hallo'Boogie, a month-long virtual Halloween celebration brought to you by the Midnite Romero Society. For more information, we're doing a lot of cool virtual readings and events. We even have a burlesque show coming up. So for all that information, go to midnightromerosociety.org/Hallo'Boogie. I'll link it in the description below. So Mark, thank you so much. And thank everyone for joining us today.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, take care.